Welcome, 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 welcome. This is Product of the 80s podcast. I am your host, Black V. I'm here and blessed today as we talk about education yesterday, today, and education for tomorrow. And I have some three amazing guests. And I'm going to start it off with starting with my first guest will be Tasha Allen. Tasha, I'd love for you to go ahead. Thank you first and foremost for being on. I'd love for you to give a brief introduction as to who you are and where you're from. Always represent where you're from and a little bit of your background education, and I'll go to the next
Hi, my name is Natasha Allen. I am from Lorain, Ohio. It's Cleveland area. I have my background. I went to BGSU for undergrad. Have a master's in reading from University of Findlay and a master's, a specialist degree in administration and supervision from UT. I currently am principal at Escuela Smart Academy. It's a bilingual school. It's the only one in the area, and it's of Toledo Public Schools. I've been in the district for, I think this is going on my 21st year.
Okay.
I've been a principal. This is going on my 10th year as a principal in the district.
Wow. Thank you for your giving back to the community, and thank you for your work, and definitely major props in education. Let me start off next with April. April is a family member. I'm not going to call her what I normally call her because then she gets mad at me because we're the same age. But welcome, April. Welcome to the Product of the 80s podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, my name's April Clay. I am from Austintown, Ohio, Youngstown area. And I went to Ohio State for both undergrad and grad school. I have a BA in communications and also a law degree, and also got a master's in business administration, all from Ohio State. So yeah, did the OSU thing. I worked for a while as a marketing manager and director at Kellogg's Cereal Company, and then also at Victoria's Secret stores. Now I work entirely for my children.
Nice.
Hardest bosses I've ever had, actually. Yeah, so so I work for them for the most part. I am doing homeschooling, sort of. I can explain that a little bit later, but yeah. So yeah, that's me.
Dope. And last but not least, this amazing brother, I've known him since, I don't know, elementary into high school and so forth and so on. He's definitely a pillar in his community, involved in so many different things, as well as being a teacher, as well as being influenced with music and helping so many other brothers find their way. Keith Two Fly Logan, brother, thank you. Once again, I'm honored for you to go ahead and help a brother out and be a part of something amazing. How are you today, brother?
I'm doing real good, man. All is well my way, man. I'm just glad to be here. Proud product of the 80s, most definitely. All right.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, your educational background. Where you from, of course. We know you're from the Yo, but a little bit about your educational background.
Right, so I'm right here in Youngstown, Ohio, and my educational background, I have my bachelor's in telecommunications and sociology from Youngstown State, my master's in computer information technology, actually computer science, information science. So that's also from Youngstown State University. Straight out of there, I started doing some adjunct teaching. Actually, I started out as an advisor at Eastern Gateway Community College. And just doing advising, I was kind of always keeping up with emerging technology and things. And that's about the time like 3D printers came about. So I wrote up this class and this curriculum, and they allowed me to present that 3D printing class, and it was a success. And from there, I started teaching more of the computer classes and so on and so forth. But currently, I'm at a high school academy for urban scholars. It's one of the best teaching situations I ever had as an educator as a whole. And I'm just doing technology there and emerging tech.
Dope. I appreciate that, brother. Thank you. All of y'all are well educated, which means y'all all worked hard to be in the place that you have been. And I appreciate that. And thank you. And I'm going to jump right into it with my first question, which is, when was it the moment in your life where you felt that teaching, for April, I guess it would be when you knew that you wanted to teach your kids, and when was the moment for you guys, Tasha, and also for Keith, when y'all knew like, okay, I can do this, and I definitely want to be a teacher. And I guess I'll start off with, let me start off with Tasha first.
Well, when I was in high school, I actually, I love kids. I love to babysit. And so that's when I went into teaching. There was no one around me that was really, besides some really great teachers that I had, middle school and high school, no one like in my family that was a teacher. So I went to BGSU wanting to be, first, originally it was a nurse. And then in high school, you could like shadow jobs. There was some program at school where we did that. Well, that didn't work out because I like fainted in the hospital. Something that made me queasy. So I decided I didn't want to be a nurse, that I was going to go teaching. And then ever since I started teaching, I loved it. And I love kids. And I'm really there for the kids and their families and to support them in any way that I can, or at least find resources to support them. So I love working with students and interacting with them on a daily basis. And so that's why I still continue to do what I do as the years have gone.
Right, I can imagine, especially the way it's changed, whether from a community standpoint and within the household standpoint. So I can understand that. So thank you for that. And next, let me go to Fly. Let me go to Keith. Keith, brother, what was it? When was that moment you was like, you know what? I could do this. I got this. I want to do this.
Man, as crazy as this may sound, I still don't believe that I'm an educator. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's like imposter syndrome, imposter theory, whatever that is. But, I guess if I try to trace it back to my early age, I'm the oldest of my siblings,
Right.
So I'm kind of always teaching. I had a lot of younger cousins and a lot of people, so I'm always just naturally was teaching or going first and then showing people how to kind of do things. So even when I started teaching, fresh out of college, I looked young. I was kind of I was young looking. So people always, you're the teacher, even when in college, like you're the teacher in the class, you're the facilitator. So I don't know if that even had a deeper impression subconsciously, like, man, I'm an educator, so, but right. I do love it every day, but even going to work sometimes, I can't believe that it's a truly a privileged position to be in, right. So anyone that's ever had a chance to facilitate a class or teach or present to anyone that's willing to gain that knowledge, it is kind of an out of body type thing to me. So I'm still searching for that moment to let me know that I'm supposed to do this for the rest of my life. So I'm 10 years deep. I'm 10 years in.
10 years strong. Well, keep doing what you do, brother. Keep doing what you do. April, yes, you got a extremely hard class because you have to differentiate, I guess, the difference between them two when it's time to be serious, when you're not just being mom, but when it's time to go ahead and buckle down. So when was it that moment that you like, yo, I want to homeschool my girls. I want to teach my girls, like, I can do this.
Yeah, it's interesting because I always was exploring since Aurora was born. My oldest daughter, she's 7. I was exploring and thinking about alternative education just because I actually didn't want her to have the same experience I had. So I was looking into alternative ways of educating from the beginning. She actually went to a Waldorf preschool, which is extremely play-based. Like that's what they do. And that's what we were looking for actually. And that was a great experience. And then COVID hit, rebel spirit. So COVID, I said, thinking about alternatives to traditional education. And when that happened, I was like, yeah, we're not doing that at all. So do something else. I'm not saying that's the case always, but year by year, the last couple of years, that's what it's been.
Dope. If it flashes showing a picture thing, that's just me going over my notes. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
So that's dope. That's amazing for all of you. And wow, it's interesting how everybody's path is so different to get them to the point that they're in their life. And I commend all y'all again for doing what you do. I would say from let's not saying who's your favorite teacher. We'll get to that later, your most memorable teacher. Who may have been, whether it's a college professor, whether it's a friend, a coach, or whoever, from an educator standpoint, who would you say was the most impactful on your life? It may have been your favorite teacher, but who can you remember as being like, for you, as far as you getting your education, the most impactful person to you? Now we'll go with you first, April.
Okay, so as far as getting my own education, I would say my grandfather has had a really strong influence on making sure that we were all really highly educated people. So much so that it was almost it was almost detrimental, weirdly enough. Like, it was in our family, it was like, oh, you got a college degree, great. Like, what else are you gonna do, kind of thing.
Right,
So
right.
as far as getting educated, I'd say he was probably the single biggest influence on the entire family around that kind of thing. Most recently, though, as far as my philosophies on education related to my own kids, I read a book by a woman named Carrie McDonald. It's called Unschooled.
Okay.
And I think it's a great book just because it provides a completely opposite view of what we're currently doing.
Right.
And whether people buy that philosophy or not, it's just, it gives you kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. So it's like,
Right.
here's what we do, and here's the exact opposite of that. And you can fall wherever you want in between. But I think it's really great to have a reference point that is very different than, kind of what's traditionally done.
Right. Mhm.
And so I actually really don't like the term unschooled because it just kind of is sort of negative. But
Right.
I think that notion of self-directed education is really important, I think, just to be aware of. I'd say her.
I like that. I like that a lot, and I'm gonna definitely have to check out the book. Let me go next with you, Tasha. What do you say? Who would you say has been that one that very influential, impactful person in your life education?
Well, I would say it would be, I'm actually going to pick a teacher that I had. And the reason why is because he was a very amazing teacher. Everybody loved this man. He was serious, but he was funny. He was engaging. He really made you love learning. So once I made the decision that I wanted to become a teacher, in that thought process of deciding that, I was thinking about, that's the kind of teacher I would like to be, a teacher that's engaging, that has good interactions and rapport with students, because it was easy for us to learn. It was easy for us to learn because we wanted to be there, because we enjoyed class, because we were learning. There were many reasons about Mr. Jones that made us want to even come to school, just his personality. I mean, to this day, I still have contact with him, and I still, like on Facebook, and I'll run into him when I go home to see my parents. I'll run into him. I've run into him at the store before, and he knows my name. So, he still knows our names. So he's just an amazing man that like everybody loves. And that's the kind of teacher that I wanted to be. I wanted to be someone like him that can really engage and teach students.
Right, leave a lasting impact. Right, you make a mark, and the students love to go ahead and remember you because they love the impact you have. I know I remember that so much. It would seem like in school it was always a teacher that, I don't know, wasn't the easiest, but once you got past that hard part of them, it was like the relationship changed. Once you probably got in trouble by the teacher and they pulled you to the side, had that one real talk, or showed you that they believe in you and they're hard on you for a reason, or they're just the harder teachers, but they do it for a reason. Those are always the ones that kind of stick out. For you, Fly, who was it? Who was it, sir?
I got two gentlemen I'm gonna bring to the table right here. Mr. Ed Arrington and another gentleman by the name of Dr. William Blake. And the reason for both of them, Dr. Arrington first. And this is high school, my high school band director. I played the saxophone back in high school. Notably,
Grand High Marching Band.
there you go. Notably received the Bandsman of the Millennium, award. But I ain't gonna say too much about that. But listen, as a matter of fact, that's it right there. Because that attitude right there, Mr. Arrington, he knew I was a good saxophone player, but my attitude, I was arrogant. I just thought I was so good. But he humbled me and taught me so many lessons about that. I wanted to be first chair, and I just knew I was going to be first chair. At the beginning of that school year, he started me at last chair. I had to battle everybody to get to first chair, just because I was that arrogant, So but it humbled
Made
me in
you
a way
prove
to
it.
understand that that was so deep. And I didn't, and that lesson still resonates with me today. One more person I would say, a program director at YSU, Dr. William Blake, legendary individual there. He just showed me the ropes. And once again, he helped me go beyond my limits. He's seen that I had this type of personality. I was innovative. I was out of the box. And at some time I could be kind of ungrounded and misdirected, but he always found a way to let me see things, even when I would be frustrated because things wouldn't go my way because I was so unconventional. He would level it out for me, and I would understand it a little bit better. So he just always had a way of doing that and connecting with me and helping me understand that, and that ultimately made me a better educator all the way around the board. So.
Well, shout out to all those educators. Definitely. If they're still here and they get to see how proud of you guys are, I'm sure they are all proud. And definitely, Mr. Arrington, I remember him. That was a brother that a lot of people showed a lot of love. He
And
impacted a
one
lot
more.
of people's life.
Right. And the other thing, coming from the area that we're coming from, to see these are both men that are African American, Black men. So it helped me identify with somebody in these positions. If I didn't see them in these positions at that age, I may have never even aspired to even think, I can do this, I can achieve that. So that was also deep.
That's dope. That's dope, and that's real. I understand exactly what you mean. To come up as a young African American male, to see other Black men just in positions, whether they were educators, whether they were like seeing, who was it, Mr. Bentley when he was principal,
right.
Or we had so many other ones, especially men, because I mean, you kind of get to that point where you kind of you're used to get a little bit more comfortable seeing women as educators, but then when you start seeing men, and you're like, okay, all right, we can just, for me at least, my experience, it was like the first time getting to see and have a Black male as a teacher, or just a man period, but a Black male as a teacher was like, wow,
Right.
it was dope and impressionable upon me. We'll go with the next question, and I'm gonna go right to you, Flock, especially since being what your background is. How in the ways, would you say that not education, but technology has helped in today's classrooms, and also how you may feel like it may hinder sometimes also?
I mean, even this first one, I'm gonna say the help, it's a double-edged sword. But this is the information generation. I tell my class all the time, like, you have access to Google, you have access to any answer that you want. YouTube, I know it's not an invention, but I say this is one of the greatest inventions of all time. You can literally YouTube anything you want to find out. I'm not saying go with the first video, do your research, but you can literally find anything out. You can Google anything. And
Right.
this is something I think is just in a learning setting, it's just a powerful tool, but at the same time, I'm not even gonna go with the double edge on that one. I'm gonna just go with the cell phones in class, especially, well, I'm gonna say in a high school. You're competing with Instagram, you're competing with FaceTime, you're competing with TikTok, you're competing with
Snap, so forth, so on, everything.
Right. So, it's different in a collegiate, setting, but in a high school, it's a battle for real.
Yeah, I you know what, and I'm going to change that one question at the end, because I knew when I wrote it that one of the number one answers, probably most of y'all would say, would probably be the for technology would be the cell phone. I definitely can see that, because heck, it's the cell phones even in the workplace. So for you, Tasha, what would you say for you would be the pros and the cons of the technology?
Technology, not cell phone usage, right?
Yeah, well, no, you can we'll do cell phone usage. I have another question I'll throw in here for to replace that one.
Positives would be, like he was saying, just them being able to use research things online, because who has encyclopedias nowadays? I think my sister went to the library. I don't even know if they even have them, to be honest.
Wow.
Wait, I'm being honest. She said she went. So it's very beneficial for students in the classroom. We also use a lot of online assessments. So right now our students are taking our Ready diagnostic assessment. That's how they take their state testing. It's online and it's with Chromebooks. So we really need that in the schools. That's the way that they're assessed ongoing throughout the year. The teachers use that data and it's online. It's all online. They use that data to know what do the students know, what do they need to know, what have they learned, interventions. The program that we specifically use at school gives a lot of information to teachers. What intervention should they do with their students? What custom courses the students take, because they work on that 45 minutes of math and 45 minutes of reading every week. For the students as well as the teacher and the resources.
That's hard. I definitely get it. So the con,
sometimes they'll sneak on videos from YouTube. They'll try to sneak if the teachers have to be very observant in monitoring the classroom, because kids are kids. And if they want to look up a video to listen on their headphones while they're doing what they're doing, they will. So I mean, the of that is they can go to other sites online.
With you being a principal, how often do these things end up coming to your office, dealing with the fact of just kids constantly being on their phone during class or
Yes,
whatever?
that is the majority. Well, I'm just saying that the whole phone issue, you don't want me to go into that because it's a problem. It's a problem. Less problems at school if they didn't have Snapchat, TikTok. Well, they're not really too much on Facebook, to be honest, nowadays. At the beginning, they don't do that. They do TikTok and Snapchat. If they were not on that, I deal with that every week. I'm dealing with a Snapchat, and that stuff doesn't have to do with school. A lot of times it's happening outside of school and it comes into the school because someone Snapchat FU to some student or something. You know what I mean? Like, so it comes from outside and it's brought into the school building because they're on it. So really, they're on it outside the school and it comes into the building. I'm not saying that they're not posting while they're in school in my elementary school. High schools, they have the options of having it out in between classes. They have that option. In our school, we can't see it. If we see it, your parent has to come pick it up. Simple as that. So I'm not having the in-school Snapchat, TikTok issue. It's just outside of school coming in.
Wait, so even in the standpoint of from an elementary standpoint, you still have issues with the phones?
Crazy.
Yes. It's
wow.
it's not the little ones. It's the 6th to 8th graders.
Okay.
Well, I only have 6, so I'm focusing on 6 right now. But it's not the little ones. I haven't had issues with little ones doing anything like that. It's those middle schoolers.
Okay.
They think they're really older than what they really are. So
Right. Yes, these kids are growing. They want to grow up so fast, and we were talking. There was in another discussion on another podcast I have, the AAA podcast. We were discussing about where we don't have technology doesn't give us that freedom we used to have to separate conversations and everything. We're here, and the children kind of were like, yo, stay out of grown folks' business. Now everything is all connected. Your parents, your grandparents, your kids are all in the same playing field, and they get the same access to receive it the same way. And we were just couldn't believe it. So they had seen that, and now you're worried about little kids coming here and sharing, and everything's available. There's no safeguards. It's kind of hard. So for you, April, this may be a little bit different in a way, but I would say, what are some of the biggest ways technology has helped you with homeschooling your girls?
Sure. I actually, so I think technology, like everybody said, it's a bit of a balance, right?
Right.
I think that so much is available to you. So to me, it shifts the dynamic related to education. Like, it's no longer trying to teach your kid facts and things. It's more trying to help them navigate and learn and find the information that's already there. So to me, I think the task becomes a little bit different. It's less about, do you know the 7 continents? Or I'm not saying that she shouldn't know that, but I'm saying that stuff is really relatively easy to look up. but it's more about, do you know how to look it up? Do you know how to find the information? Do you know how to
Wow, yeah.
navigate this technology, right? And I
Right.
think as some of you guys were saying, you know, adults have the same sort of issue. Like we'll scroll Instagram if we don't check ourselves on it, right? Like trying to teach them, I think, how to navigate technology is going to be a really big deal. I
Yeah.
think, because it's only going to get more pervasive. I remember listening to, I can't remember if it was a TED Talk or podcast or something, but Elon Musk was saying, my biggest fear for humanity is not being able to navigate technology, because technology at some point is going to get smarter than us. So it's like, how do you navigate it? And so I think those are the bigger things that I think we need to start thinking about as it relates to kids. Can they find the answer? Can they figure it out? Someone else said like 70% of jobs in the future don't actually exist today. So again, can you figure it out? Can you problem solve? Do you know how to find the information? Do you know how to teach yourself? I think those are going to be really important skills to have. And technology can be super helpful or it can be super tragic. It just depends on the person using it. It's like the atom bomb, right? Like splitting the atom was one of the coolest things that ever happened. And yet I'm sure Einstein didn't know that it was going to be used for an atomic bomb. So it's really the person using the technology. Are we raising children, both from an education standpoint and a parenting standpoint, that are ethically responsible, know how to problem solve, know how to critically think? I think these kinds of things are going to be really important, less fact stuff, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I answered the question. I hope I did.
No, you answered it perfect. Actually, you answered it perfect. It gave me more things to think about. So the next one is, I think, I would say from our time. I remember, I'm not putting anybody's age out there, but I'm quite sure we're all around the same age. They would highlight where these kids would be actually working on cars in some class, besides just having the wood shop. There was like other different things, doing hair, like for barber, different things like that, trades they would have. Yeah, chauffeuring. Well, yeah, in the we had chauffeuring. And I would watch these older movies and they would show it where they had it more at the school. Like the actual, you don't even have to leave the school to go to chauffeuring. You would just go down to the basement or to the one part of the school and they would have it there. All these different things, showing you how to be even an electrician, different things like that. So with that, and as well as you guys are educators, you all are smart. So as much as I feel like education counts, I think trades count as well as being like educators. And I know my parents didn't push it on me because they didn't know. And I watched so many other kids where you almost felt like our generation of parents was always like college, 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 college. Like it was just college. Like it was if you don't go to college, society made you feel like you were a failure almost. Like our parents pushed it on us because for a lot of them, they either didn't get it or they didn't get to finish, or if they got to finish, it's benefited them. So how do you feel that has affected how society approaches things like where trades are like the number one hiring thing going on right now, and they're paying like people very good, but they're struggling to meet demands because I think we went through a period with society we were pushed, and we may maybe ourselves pushed our kids so much away from trade. We're like a lot of times only if your parents was in a trade, they might steer you to a trade, and that's only if college didn't work out for you. So I'll let any one of y'all pick who wants to go first on that. As far as do you think we should push for more trades in our schools, especially maybe in high school or starting off in junior high? But do you think trades should also be pushed to the forefront as well as education, or finding a way to blend where both of them can be more?
I'm going to speak on that because our district, Toledo Public Schools, has that already. So we're college and career ready as part of our mission and vision statement. So we offer all of those extra pieces, like you're saying. There's a construction program at Rogers High School. Like all the high schools have certain programs within them where they're actually doing the job. We have NSAT, and I know that's part of, like, there's some students being pilots, learning how to be pilots. And actually the companies right now, I think it's Delta is working with our district. So our district actually it supports college and career. So not everyone wants to go to college, and that's okay.
Right.
We need great students to be in these positions and doing these other jobs too. Trades are awesome, and like I said, college isn't for everyone. I know that it's not. But they can do well off also in those trade schools. A lot of kids are still helping that need to stay in the area, or they need to help at home. So doing these trade jobs in the area is also great too. So I highly support that. And our district highly supports that as well.
That's dope. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's real.
Right.
Um,
I piggyback right off that, especially that excitement that Tasha has for the trades. In our school, we definitely offer and encourage students to do that. And ODE kind of has revamped that. Like you said, there was a wave of college, but now it's revamped, and it's they have it as different career pathways and credentialing programs. So you can it's really unique, like what you can do. They have different ways to graduate high school. You can go through a pathway. Let's just say you want to do computer information. You can, if you pass and get 12 credit points, let's say you pass a Microsoft PowerPoint, Microsoft Excel, a Photoshop, and a Microsoft Word. You have 12 points, and that will basically, give you enough credits to graduate. That'll give you a pathway to graduate. And you can also get advanced credits for college this way. So it kind of works and lets you go in the direction you want to go. But more specifically, our school, we have like the Fanic Arm, we have we have STNA, we have just different pathways. Like you said, those vocations we had that at Chopin, like April mentioned earlier, but we bring those right into the school and make it a part of the curriculum, just to build
Right.
even the future entrepreneurs in the city. So.
Right. That's dope. That's dope. That's needed. I think education is extremely important. I feel that trade with the skills to build these new research facilities, these new buildings, and to go into these homes and to go into these schools. So we go hand in hand, and that's amazing that we're bringing that back right into the schools.
But
April,
let
do
me
you
tell
have
you,
thoughts on that? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
the main challenge with that is just making sure we can fulfill that pipeline for these jobs. A lot of these companies, they have positions available, but they just don't have the bodies to go into it. And you don't necessarily have to have a 4-year degree or anything like that. Just complete a program and you can be pipelined right into something right out of high school, which is.
Yeah, that's crazy. I seen they were hiring for iron workers the other day around here,
Right.
and it was like $41 an hour as an iron worker. So there's money to make, and I like what you're saying. April, what was your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably more of a theoretical approach, but I feel like I think if you start with the kid and try to get them the resources that they need to explore some of the things that they want to explore, like doesn't really matter to me where they end up, as long as they are exploring the stuff they want to be exploring. Do you know what I mean? And if that ends up trade, awesome. How do we find that and get them in front of that? So to me, I still like start back with the kid. It's like, with my kids, they're little, so I'm very much like exposure, like expose them to everything at this point. And if they decide they want to go trade route, then I'm like, cool, like let's figure out how to do that. You know what I mean? Some things require college, everything does not though. And so to me, I'm more interested in getting them into positions and careers that are going to bring them, fulfillment and joy, because even going the college route, it doesn't necessarily end up there. Like, trust me.
You're right. Yeah,
You'll end up at the top of a ladder and be like, oh, I am on the wrong ladder. So I think it's important to start with the kid and then go from there and make sure that they have the resources to explore the things that they want to explore.
I agree. I want to add something to what April said, because it made me think. So currently now, our students they just now moved it down, I think 5th and 6th grade, but they were doing like 8th graders, this Naviance program. I think they did 7th grade, but the 7th graders, they were asking different questions. 8th graders are asking questions so that they can so that the program will figure out what types of jobs would they be interested based off of the survey that they filled out. So it's not like someone's pushing something upon them that they don't want to do. It already kind of gives them an idea of, Oh, based off of those questions that were asked on the survey, it's an online survey. Here we go, online again. But it was an online survey that they filled out that the counselors give to students. And then it kind of gives them an idea of what jobs would they possibly be interested in. And then in our district, then they can kind of move towards, okay, what high school would you go to if you wanted to do something like that?
That
You know,
makes sense.
it's great to look at what, like April said, kind of see what the kids want, you know, and what they
Right. I like that. I like that a lot. And thank you all for that answer. As we move on to the next part as we're moving along, let's go with community or lack thereof. Where do you see how it can help from your opinion, or in what areas can we improve? Or do the parents need to be more involved in their children instead of thinking of school is just a drop off? Anyone can go first.
What was that the first beginning of that question? You kind of put out.
Community or lack thereof. And how would community, a more involved community, help with education?
Help with education.
Yeah, help with education in the school.
All right, so I'll just jump in on this one. Just speaking from where I'm at in my educational sector, you know, when the community is involved, it just helps the whole situation. We offer classes to the students as well as their parents. You know, so these technology courses that we offer to the student, we also offer to the parents. We also offer to the grandparents. We try to make sure to get everyone involved because it's not just about sending your child to this building and then we send them back after 8 hours a day. You know, we're trying to build that sense of cohesiveness and let them know that this building is a place where you can come, you know, that's safe and you can learn. And this is an extension of your household. And everyone in your household has an opportunity to utilize what's here. You know, so it's just a great thing when you have an ideology like that, I would say.
Yeah. For Tasha, I want to ask it a little bit different for you, being a principal. How frustrating is it?
She like, "Hey, hold on. Let me get ready."
it can, oh, go ahead. Are you
Sorry, go ahead.
About that phone call came through. Okay, so from your experience, how frustrating can it be when you have like this child with so much potential, but you deal with parents who may not be as really interested in their child's education or can't give the attention to what they need to because they're busy with work or something?
it can be very frustrating. At the same time, when there's students like that, we try to offer support to the parents because there's many resources in our community that can help parents and families if there's some specific needs. Though at times there's still parents that don't want it, and you know, they don't want the help, or they don't want to say they want the help, but they want the help. And so we're just trying to help the families the best way we can for the student particularly. I tried, and here was a student that I really wanted them to do, go into a summer program because it would be very beneficial to him. But the parents had many children that lived in the house and they didn't want him involved. The student was amazing, but the parent kind of held them back. I can only do so much. I mean, I can only tell the parent, encourage, say the positive things about it, but if they don't want it to happen, then it can't happen. So that's the more frustrating part, when you try, and you really don't get what you really want to happen. So that's frustrating. The community at like the school where I'm at now, the community is amazing. There's so much community support for our families. We have 75% Hispanic children at our school. And they're bilingual mostly. There's about 10 out of my 287, 15 that are Spanish only speakers.
Okay.
That there's some barriers when some teachers they're not fluent in Spanish. They may know a little. So there are some barriers, but we do have community support and we do have staff that are bilingual and know Spanish that can translate, and everything that goes home, I have to send Spanish and English double-sided
Oh, wow. Okay.
But we have a lot of support because I'm located in South Toledo, which is a huge population of Hispanic families. So there's a lot of organizations, Sofia Quintero Arts and Cultural Center, they assist, Adelante, they assist, after school programming. There's a lot of support. We do have a lot of support from the community. So when parents need support, we usually have what they need at the bilingual school. Before that, I was teaching at another elementary school in the district. So it's my first year there. So I am getting to know the families, getting to know the students, but it's important that as an administrator, I am working closely with families. I'm talking to them, I'm meeting them. They know who I am, especially since I'm new, to build those relationships where they feel comfortable to speak with me or to speak with staff about things that they need specifically.
Okay.
Community is
That's
very
dope.
important because they help with all the resources we need for our families.
Okay. Real quick before I ask April this, do you guys, with everything that's going on in the world, society, going on through the country the last couple of years with all the protests, and we go through not to make it political, but to say we go through the Trump presidency into the Biden presidency, and everything's available to these kids, and even young kids now have questions or have this fear or this phobia. From a community standpoint, I wanted to ask each of you, do you feel that having police being involved in our community instead of just working it, but being involved in our community, especially with our children, like maybe coming and having programs like where they're coming to this, coming and having like at least once a week, officers are coming and helping with homework or after school programs or coaching or different things like that. Do you think that would help in a sense, in a way, as far as community, we're making that lack of trust, that lack of understanding, where that may close that gap? And I want to ask you first, April.
That's a good question. I'm not sure I have a, a good answer on that. You know what? I'm a little bit conflicted about it because I feel like there's a lot of baggage there that I think would have to be addressed first. I'm not opposed to trying to build relationships with officers. Actually, I think that's important long term. But I think, first of all, especially within the Black community, Black and Brown community, right? There's a big lack of trust, and that is a lot. That's fairly ingrained at this point. So to just bring it in and be like, let's put them together, I'm just not so sure you would get the result. You know what I mean? Right off the bat.
Right. Well, maybe starting with elementary, maybe starting from the standpoint where we started with these elementary kids in elementary, where they start coming in with like your first kindergarten, first graders, different things like that, getting used to seeing someone in a uniform that maybe comes and volunteer, different things like that. And as the kids keep growing up through school, now they become familiar with this officer because we all had that, even at our school, we all had that one officer. We might have seen him at the school all 4 years. And then, but you kind of grew familiarity with them. So therefore, if something happens, that officer is the same person that's recognized you or knows these kids from the community, where you're like, well, you may feel more comfortable to say, well, I know such officer or sergeant so-and-so or such and such, that gives that familiarity to that person that you can trust in the uniform, or that showed you how to behave or act.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I just think it would have to be handled with extreme care. That's my thought on it. Because again, I feel like there's serious education that needs to happen on both sides of that piece. You know what I mean? And so yeah, getting to know each other, I think would be great. But if you don't have the foundation of this is where potentially the community is coming from, this is how they view you, like understanding a lot of that before you even go in, I think is going to be really critical to having that kind of thing be successful. Right. I think, yeah, theoretically, I think it could be great to start to build trust for sure. I just think you have to know, like, be super aware of, we're starting from a place that lacks a whole lot of trust. So let's make sure everybody's on the same page about that, really understands that before we start, you know what I mean? Start trying to build that bridge, if that makes sense.
That bridge. I got it. What are your thoughts on that, Tasha?
I agree with what April said. I also want to state that at our high schools, we have officers that are there every day, that the kids love. I mean, they built those relationships with them. I've met many, because what happens is the feeder pattern that officers would come to our school and say hi and see the kids. And then those kids would go to high school and see, and usually we had like the same ones. I mean, I know now
Right.
then one left. I mean, so now they're probably gonna have new ones, but what I'm saying is there were some there ongoing. You might even, I don't know, Jamar, if you know, you I don't know, may have known some from Rogers, I'm not sure, but there's, but the kids knew them and they felt comfortable
Right.
with, you know, I mean, and they had good relationships with them. Now, that doesn't mean that they're still comfortable with police officers.
Right.
Comfortable with those police officers that they've known for such a long time that they have a rapport with. Now, when you know, everything started recently coming about, I'm still questioning how they feel, because it doesn't matter, you know.
Right.
That's why I agree with what April said. A lot needs to be done for that to happen. I agree.
Okay, I got it. Fly, you have something on that?
I mean, I share the exact same sentiments, especially what April said about that education on both sides of the fence right there. You know, there's a lot of tension in underrepresented communities, Black communities, when it comes to police versus how they police. So, you know, to do something like that, we would have to have a clear goal set. Even like what April said, we're doing this to build trust. We're doing this to build rapport. We're doing this, you know, if we had a clear goal sheet, I think it could be productive, but that would be the main reason why, you know. And you know, you don't want to see it, or you don't want to see at any school when the police pull up, you know, people are under the impression that something is wrong. You know, they're coming to take someone away. You want them to, when they see a police officer, even in their community at a store, you don't want the police shouldn't have to go through, you know, it's a stigma that comes with that when they pull up.
Yeah.
You know, if there was a different rapport, I think that we can move towards eliminating that type of stigma in the community. But there's just a lot of education that needs to be done on both sides. So
Yes, agreed. Well, I'm happy to get your thoughts on that. And my next question would be, what do you feel the federal government's role should be on education? And do we prioritize education enough as a country? Tasha, I'll let you go first. Being a principal, you kind of get to see things from a financial standpoint, a little bit and whatnot, what you have to do from, especially being a principal for your school, your district, or for the city or whatever.
Well, I'm right now on my brain is the testing. So this is what's on my brain right now is testing. Okay. So third graders have to pass the third grade reading guarantee. It's a Ohio State test. They have to pass it. If they don't pass that test, then they cannot go on to the fourth grade. This is statewide. Okay. So we've had COVID for 2 years or a year and a half, however you want to call it. And so our students are behind. So this is a state thing, it's a state decision. They make those decisions on what has to happen. Last year, our students did not have to meet a certain standard of when they took the test. I don't even think they even took the test. Can't even remember now, but they did not have to pass it to go on to the next grade, which kind of is bothersome a little bit because we want them to be ready and move forward, being ready to go to the next grade. But this impacted everybody everywhere. The fact that they weren't in school in person, and that's not easy for all students. My own child cannot do online because she's an in school, in front of her, things in front of her type of student. So anyway, I say that because now my third graders have to pass this test after they're already behind. And if they don't pass, they can't go on to third grade. So a state decision is making me a little nervous because they did lower the number. And I get it. I get the whole thing. We need them to be ready, but they're behind. But getting them, a lot of students are already behind, and now they're behind even more. So getting them to give us a little bit more time on deciding, not to pass kids if they don't pass the test, is a little worrisome for me because I'm thinking like, are my third graders, half of them not going to go on,
Right.
I get it though. I get that we want them to be ready and move forward. I just know that they're not ready right now. And I'm not sure if I'm not sure if at the end of the year, they'll be ready to pass that test specifically is what I mean.
Okay. Understand that. Definitely understand that.
So I mean, that's like a statewide decision
Yeah.
right now that's on my brain. Financially, they've given the district, compare how much school money for supporting to our students that they gave previous to now.
Okay.
A little bit hard for me to decide on if they gave us less.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I just think that when things like COVID happen, even though this is a once in a lifetime pandemic, when things like this happen and they make an uneven playing field even more uneven, someone has to step in to try to balance it out. You can't put the world on, or a whole country on remote learning, but you don't have access to, they don't have devices, let alone the Wi-Fi, the internet, to access the internet. So, someone has to step in, you know. So when things like that happen, it makes me feel kind of shaky about what will happen. And, who cares? Who's caring? What do you do? But I know a lot of schools, every school, anyone that I talk to in different schools, they're scrambling, trying to find grants, trying to find different ways to make sure that their students were able to get devices, no matter what they got, even if it's just some type of tablets to access, but there are different companies and agencies and groups, not necessarily federally funded groups, but you have to try to make do if the federal government is not going to step in and help out.
Okay. April,
Yeah.
from your experience from being a student to being a mother and COVID affecting you,
Yep.
and playing a big decision, and you keeping your my beautiful little cousins, your daughters home. How would you say, if you were given that, let's say you were given the opportunity or a position in the government over education, instead of just throwing a figurehead in there, how, in your opinion, just based off, hypothetical, how would you say is ways that you would want to help give education or help with schools or education, or putting more of a focus on it?
Do you want my honest opinion?
Yeah.
All right. So first of all, you guys, I take my hats off to you guys that are in, like, the two of you that are in this and like on the ground and like doing the stuff with these kids. I mean, because not everybody cares. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, not everybody cares. And I'm getting from the two of you like just such devotion to what you do. And I think that's so wonderful. For me, I think the actual structure is not as optimal as I would like to see. For me, I think there is, okay, so for example, I was looking into a program called Galileo. Once you open the Pandora's box of like, we're not doing school, we're gonna do something else, it's humongous. There is a program called Galileo that's entirely online, and it's like self-directed. So kids get to form their own clubs, engineering club or French club or whatever. And they have these dojos around the world that people can go and visit. They're like self-directed learning centers. And it just like blew me away. One of Aurora's friends is road schooling. She's like in a camper van, like riding around learning. There are communities that world school. There are, people that the opportunities are just mind blowing. And I think if it were up to me, I would take an assessment of everybody that's doing things interestingly, innovatively, differently, and I would actually evolve our current structure. Because I think it's not fair, the level of opportunities that are available to some people and the lack of opportunities that are available for other people. I think that is absolutely absurd in 2021, going on 22, that there's just this disparity. It just doesn't make sense to me. And to be honest with you, our education system has not really evolved for like over a century. And so I think there's opportunity to do that, especially as we're moving forward. Some of these people that from Youngstown had the cure for cancer and just were not given the opportunities to explore some of those things. And I think that's like downright sinful, to be honest with you. So I would do that. I would take a full-on assessment. I would put actual money towards that. Like, what are people doing and how can this structure change in a way that is more supportive, in a way that is going to allow people to explore and become all they want to be. And I think we could do a better job of it. I gotta be honest.
Dope. I love that answer. It gives definitely some very interesting, good food for thought. Tasha, off of what she said, as we're getting very close to wrap this up, I got like one more question for you guys. But Tasha, how do you feel off of what she said in her approach? I found it very interesting myself. And
Yeah, I think I liked it. I actually liked everything April was saying. Something that even the state or the districts even decide on, okay, maybe we look into the kids doing some of that, even in the building, because now all of our kids have Chromebooks. Okay, they all have Chromebooks. Now, some grades we say keep it in school, just be kindergarten, the traveling of back and forth. We do have some Chromebooks that we do have in school in case kids forget, that are just our in school Chromebooks. But what I'm saying is, if they can even do some of what you're saying from the building standpoint, I'm just learning in different ways, besides what we're doing right now. And maybe teachers that are utilizing other ways of learning online, because I don't know what, teachers can do their own thing. We do have curriculums that they may follow, but they can go off the curriculum, as long as they're covering the Ohio State standards, for that's what students need to learn, because that's what's on the test. They can do other things outside of that. So, I mean, we may have some really amazing teachers that are doing something outside the box and using that. Now, sharing that would be amazing if we could know, and if we could look into some different ways of student learning that wouldn't be the way we've been doing it, So I think that is something to be looked at.
Okay. Fly, real quick. Do you feel from what April said, or do you agree from what April said, in the sense of that the way that we've been going about educating is outdated? It's old. And I know this country always screams change, 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 but we love to stay comfortable in what we know and hate. So a lot of times to progress and move forward and looking outside the box. And do you personally, part of the reason why we're so behind to other major countries with education wise?
Well, I'm April. She opened up the dialogue on this, and Tasha says something that once I found this out about my class, it totally threw anything that was conventional out the window. As long as it aligns with the ODE standards and competencies, it can go in the classroom. It's allowed. In my classroom, I do sound theory. I have a music studio in my classroom. When I'm teaching the kids how to do, let's just say PowerPoint, I'm meeting the children where they are. We're gonna do everything, but you're gonna do it on your favorite rapper. Learn what a bullet point is by listening to your favorite songs. Learn how to go transition different slides, insert a video, learn the lingo. Just meeting the student where they are and just having something that is totally unconventional. I mean, we do journal entries and learn how to write. Things is on cryptocurrency and financial literacy. These children are woke, so just giving them an opportunity to see that they have all of this power right in their cell phone. Like I said, it's a double-edged sword, but one project that we did at the beginning of the year, everyone picked the stock, write down the ticker, learn what a ticker symbol is, write down what the price per share is. 30 days later, we're looking at it. Now we're adding math into this equation. If you would have invested $100, would you would have made money? Lost. So there's so many different ways to teach and reach the student, as opposed to the box cutter, cookie cutter way. I totally do things far off the box in my classroom. That's what keeps me going as an educator, because we don't have to do that. So many people stay, and I'm not knocking anyone that's old school with it. Actually, I am. Actually, I am. Meet the student where they're at now. It's a whole different culture, a whole different way. And once again, we need education on both sides. You know, the educator needs to be educated as well as the student. So
But I think if
Wow,
you're
that
asking about government points of view and what, like, how they can step in on things like that, that's, I guess, to me, where, you know, you don't get everybody's not like you, Keith. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's not like
right.
you, right? Like, you don't
Mhm.
have, you got one of you, right? So it's like, to me, that to me would be the question. How do you make that more the standard, the norm versus the exception to the rule? You know what I
Mm.
mean? That kind of innovative, creative, you know, approach to education that's more modern and meeting kids where they're at and what they're interested in and keeping them engaged. I think there's an opportunity for government to make that more of a normal scenario. Because I honestly think you're more of an exception at this point. A great exception, but an exception.
That's dope. This last question is probably a question more or less Hispanic, dealing with basically majority Hispanic school and everything going on. Dealing whether it's with the parents or even the students, how do you go about with keeping calm and correctly educating as to things that's going on in the country from a political standpoint? What tools do you use? How do you approach it? Or how does it make your job harder or better? Different things. Just how does this affect you and how do you deal with it?
Well, for our families at Escuela, I mean, we have to, it has to be in both English and Spanish, you know that. But how do you like approach, how would it be approached to the parents?
How do you approach it? Or if they may have questions because they're not understanding certain things, or just false information spreading through the community or whatever the case. And so they may come to you with questions. You're like, whoa, that's where did that come from? That's not what's happening, or whatever the case. How, does
Yeah,
that has that had become difficult for you with the climate of today?
well, I meet, you know, you have to be very personable with families and make them feel comfortable. I meet with, I mean, I've met with parents to have discussions on many different things. So I meet them, you know, to have the conversation and
Yeah.
you have to let parents talk. They want to be heard. They want you to hear them. So that's the first thing I've learned in my career. Let the parent talk. Let them say everything they want to say first, and then respond after that. And if there's not like, if I don't have an answer for them, we find the answer. You know, we work to find the answer. Is this something that needs to be brought up in the district? Is this something that I just need to contact my boss about? Is this something that I meet with my administrative team to discuss? You know, so I have to look at who needs to be involved in this conversation. And if we can't resolve it in a meeting with me and them and possibly their student, depending on what the topic is, you know. And with the community, like there's things that go on in our community that are not safe. It's not really a very safe area in which
Right.
our school is located and where our students live. So we address those, like I say, I'm very personable. We have a conversation. They'll come and talk, you know, talk to me and we figure out what the best possible solution would be. But like I said, I would also include my community,
Yes.
the organizations in my community that are there for support. Can they assist? My school, actually, all the academies in my district have a board. So I actually have a board of community members, parents, administration at my school on this board. And well, that's like commissions, but my board is community members. So we would have that conversation with our board as well. What can we do to help the families or to support this specific family in this specific situation?
Okay. Okay. All right, dope. Amazing. Definitely amazing way for you to go about it. And I know, especially with the large community, Hispanic community that Toledo has, and especially with your school, with them doing such amazing things. A lot of times there seems to be a more of a trust, more or less, for parents to come to you or feel like they can more connect to you than more, say, a traditional school that
Yes.
is out there that they can maybe. So interesting position. April, with the way everything is going on, what would you say is the hardest part about you homeschooling your girl?
Do you mean like with pandemic and all the political
Yeah,
uproar and all
all the
that?
political thing and stuff like that, or maybe Aurora seeing some things or hearing some things or having questions about things like what is is it hard for you to especially with a 7-year-old where information is coming and she may surprise you with a question like, wait, where did you hear that from? But
Yeah.
you know,
Yep. I think, okay, so for her and for actually both of them, I think it's mainly because they're still small, right? It's like I want them to be kids very much so. So I'm like, I'm
Mhm.
trying to preserve that as much as possible because they're so little. It would be a different conversation if they were like 15, right? It's like, let's have a head to head, or you know what I mean? Like, let's talk about it. For me, though, I'm very much trying to keep their experience as normal as possible because they're 7 and 3. So it's like, how do I do that? Obviously stuff comes up, and when it does, my big things are like, what kind of people do I want them to be, right? So like, what kind of people do, because they already are. I mean, little kids, you don't really have to teach them to love others and to be understanding of others. They kind of already are that way. It's more keeping them that way. So like, it's real easy in our culture right now to judge and to marginalize. Like that seems to be what we're doing. It's like, you did this, and so therefore you're in this box and we don't like you, right? Like it's there's a lot going on like that whatever it is, you wear the mask and you suck, or you don't wear the mask and you suck. Like either way, it's like, you know what I mean? There's some group that's like anti you. And so I feel like with them, I've tried to tell them in ways that they can understand that, hey, look, a lot of people can have a myriad of different actions for the exact same intention, and a myriad of different intentions with the exact same actions. So it's like, you gotta get to a person for who they are and be as kind and compassionate as you can be. The end, right? Like there's all kinds of stuff that's happening right now, and it's probably not going to stop anytime soon. So for me, if I can kind of teach them to be kind people and open-minded and understanding when stuff does come up, that to me would be the goal.
Is it scary at times? Like, do you worry at times with being well, all of you have young children, so I guess this question's for each of you. But is it scary at time with? I mean, the world has always been crazy and hectic, but information is more shown. You get to see it more. Is it kind of scary to see what these kids have to grow up in, and a feeling like it doesn't feel like it's getting better? It feels like we're getting worse. Does it scary for each of you as a parent, like in a way? Is that it?
It is kind of cringy, I guess. And I guess it's just because, they spend so much time in front of a screen, and the things that they just take in and digest. Like I have a daughter, she's 3, and she's very intelligent, but the words, sometimes she just comes up with new words. When your child has a new word into their vocabulary, like, where did you pick this word up from? And,
What was the
it's just,
word?
what's that?
What was the word?
What's the word?
She says something like, I don't remember, adorable or something frantic, a word that she just wouldn't naturally use as a 3-year-old. And I was like,
Mhm.
I wonder what she was watching. I know I'm kind of that parent. I kind of let my children kind of have free reign with the YouTube. I don't put a lot of parental,
Yeah.
but I do monitor, but I do give them kind of free reign. So some of the things she says is just takes me by surprise. So it is kind of scary that they are in front of these things. And I'm worried about, like April alluded to, the mask that, we are 80s babies. We didn't go through cyberbullying. We didn't have to experience that. We didn't have to, I mean, we had a different way of wearing masks, but they have a complete way. I mean, you can literally have an avatar to represent you and not look anything like you, in the world, a Roblox world, and this person is you, and you're meeting all these other people who have this facade or whatever is going on. And it's just so you don't never know what's going on psychologically with someone. So you just have to make sure that we have that avenue open with our children, just to
Right.
talk to them about mental health and things like that.
Yeah, mental health is so big, so big. I'm sure all of you in your points of life, whether it was where your careers or Tasha, I'm sure you deal with it, or even not even sometimes with the kids, but you can just tell we were dealing with a parent or other people in the community where it's like, yo, like mental health, and the scary part is those that have mental health issues, especially in the minority community, we don't always like to go get checked
Right.
and for different things. You have so many people run around with depression or ADHD or so many other different things going on and undiagnosed. But
Yeah.
you as a loved one, as a family member, or as a friend, or whatever the case, we notice it, we see it, and it's just it can be frightening at times. Me, you having used to work at a women's prison, majority of the people in there have some type of unchecked or undiagnosed. There's don't get me wrong, there's a bunch of them in there diagnosed. There's a lot of them undiagnosed that have these same similar issues. And it's just like, wow, it's a scary world. And mental health is so disregarded, I feel like, uh, in society. And if that's anything I can say the federal government needs to focus on or put more money to, like education, would be mental health. At one point in time, we used to in the 70s and the 80s, but it felt like we got to the 90s. It was like all the mental health places were closed. Youngstown had like two or three of them alone, and Youngstown's not even big. Like we have Belmont Pines and like two other spots, but it just feels like mental health is by the wayside. And it's just like, hey, deal with it how you deal with it and whatever. So Fly, the last question for you. Sorry for my tangent. The last question for you, brother, is the people want to know, when is you gonna run for mayor, man? How many more years we gotta wait?
Man, I'm so in love with the educational sector right now. I don't know, man. I don't know.
He did say he didn't know how long he was gonna be there. So
Yeah, he
Right.
did. Yeah, he
Um,
did. Yeah, he's very active in the community. He's always part of something. Also, shout out to FamCoin. Real
Mhm.
quick, if you want to let them know what FamCoin is.
We have a cryptocurrency that we started right here out of Youngstown, per se, and it's a charity coin. And the goal is just to
What's it
fam
called?
coin, fam coin, FAAM, 40 acres and a mule coin.
Okay.
You know, it's meant to educate and become a lot of people's first crypto. We are going into different schools and doing educational classes about cryptocurrency and just about investments and just financial literacy altogether. And we're just helping a lot of our liquidity. What we do, we have charitable events that we have. We get back to the community. We're having a coat drive. We did a food drive for Thanksgiving. We're having a soda drive for Christmas. We help people if you have rent, a bill that may do. So we're in our infancy stage, but we have a lot of traction going so far. So if anyone needs any help, especially in this holiday season, reach out to FamCoin because our mission is to kind of help people as well as educate about financial literacy.
Well, I want to thank all of you for coming and taking time out of your busy days, especially on football Sunday. Did the Browns win, Tasha? Did they finish it out?
I don't care if it was by a couple points. We won. Watching it on the side.
Keith, I want to thank you also, brother. I know you got some stuff to go and get to and everything, so I appreciate you coming in and filling in last minute for me. So I definitely appreciate all of you are informative. April, as always, I always learn something with communicating and talking to you, having just great conversations, and I applaud you for being the wonderful mother you are and wonderful educator you are. All of you are great educators. And Tasha, I commend you because you go to work with a lot of people depending on you and having to take care of a lot of things besides your cell phone. So I applaud that. And Fly, man, keep doing what you're doing, not only in the community, but just as a father and as a friend, and also with your music, brother. So I appreciate all of you very much. Thank you. God bless. This is Product of the 80s podcast. Please be aware, be awoke, be alive, and also just pay attention and have community love. Thank you all. God bless and good night.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.